What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to play a game I like to call Unpopular Opinion. It's basically where I share my thoughts on a movie or a TV show that isn't popular and discuss why I think that way. And what better way to kick off this first segment than to review the Indiana Jones movie, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Like most people, I love the Indiana Jones movies. Indiana is one of my childhood heroes and is a pop culture legend. Based off of critics, this movie wasn't that bad. But the audiences and the fans tend to disagree, and they would straight up call this movie blasphemy to the Indiana Jones series. Me personally, I love this movie. It's one of the best indie movies in my opinion. Now before everyone jumps on the comment section to call me stupid, all I ask is you hear me out. Here's why I love Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
This ain't gonna be easy. Not as easy as it used to be. Damn, I thought that was closer.
The Indiana Jones movies are known for their epic quest, incredible set pieces, heart-pounding action sequences, and practical special effects. Minus the last one, this movie has all the trademarks of an Indiana Jones movie. Everyone always is so quick to say, the CGI, or that's not how magnets work, or the big one, aliens in an Indiana Jones movie, and a bunch of others I won't mention, but feel free to comment on below. The first thing I love about this movie is the villains, and that the time really reflects the gap years between The Last Crusade. The previous movie came out 19 years before this one, and this is set 19 years later. I like how it shows the progression of time in a real way, how the years have really aged Indiana, and how this is set in a new decade. I mean, the villains were perfect for the decade. It's the 1950s, the Cold War's going on, the Red Scare. They're the perfect guys Indy to face off against. And Cate Blanchett, as Dr. Spalko, is despicable. I mean, it's perfect for our villain. She's annoying, she's a know-it-all. You just want to see her get punched. In a way, she kind of reminds me of Belloc, but more lethal, because she kicks ass. And I love it. The second reason I love the movie is this really shows how Indiana is human and an everyman. I know the other movies have done it, and maybe even to a better extent, giving him qualities we can all relate to. In Raiders, he's shown having a phobia of snakes. In Temple of Doom, it shows how he cares about children and how selfless he is, given he's willing to help total strangers from an Indian village. And the third movie tackles his origins and dynamics with his dad. But most importantly, he isn't invincible, and he gets hurt, just like everybody else. But this movie shows how he's a normal man and ages like one. It shows his romantic, emotional sides. In the previous movies, the women were kind of just there for his amusement, and you never get to feel that he really has a relationship with them. This movie shows how much he cared about Marion and his son Mott, and I'll touch more on that later, but it gives him growth as a character, and not by being all debonair like previously portrayed.
I'm sure I wasn't the only one to go on with my life. There must have been plenty of women for you over the years.
There were a few, but they all had the same problem.
Yeah, what's that?
They weren't you, honey.
This one's going to hit a nerve with some people, but I don't care. The alien aspect of the film was awesome, and it didn't bother me at all. Most fans would agree that it's out of place, it doesn't belong. I mean, it takes the realism and seriousness out of Indiana Jones. But let me say this. When has Indiana Jones ever been a reality-based franchise? Think about it. With a mountain of respect for religion. I mean, I'm a religious guy myself, but what's so realistic about ghosts and fiery bolts of magic energy destroying an entire army? Or like the magic power of the Holy Grail insta-healing a gunshot wound? And should I remind you of the voodoo doll, or is that just too painful? I can go on and on about the previous films having unbelievable non-realistic things, but it doesn't matter, because we love them anyway. The other movies show Indy going after religious or supernatural artifacts. And I like how they moved away from that in this movie, and had Indy face off against the paranormal instead of the supernatural. And given that this takes place in the 50s, the shift in tone is all too appropriate, because sci-fi and aliens were all the rage in that decade. Everyone at one point or another has entertained the idea of aliens or extraterrestrials visiting us. And there's the huge discussion over who built Stonehenge, or how could Machu Picchu be constructed with ancient primitive tools. Maybe aliens did it. I don't know. And I can go on and on about how there are hieroglyphs depicting alien-like beings and descriptions of futuristic technologies in ancient ruins. But I love how Indiana Jones takes the step in that discussion. And it was really cool. I loved it, it wasn't far-fetched, and in the spirit of the previous films, it gives face value to old mythology and folklore and puts it in a modern setting. Now, you can argue against that all you want. That's just the way I feel about it. I love that in this movie, Indiana's in the jungle, not the desert or the Middle East mountains or anything. Yes, he spent time in the jungle before, but in this movie, the quest is all about the jungle, baby, and it was great. I've heard mixed opinions on this, but the ant fight was awesome. I mean, this was seriously the best fight in the whole franchise. I mean, the main fist fight in all the movies were extravaganzas and awesome, but this takes it to a whole new level. I mean, never has Indiana Jones faced off against an equal before. I mean, yeah, he fought the boxer, but he was better at fighting, and the other main fight combatants, they were no match for him. The Vogel tank fight kind of dropped the ball when it came to climatic fist fights, but still. However, this fight was incredible. The Soviet colonel was the perfect match for Indy. I mean, the fight had the perfect use of applicable, realistic martial arts. It was fast-paced in a fun, non-ridiculous way, like you'd see in modern over-the-top action films like Jason Bourne or Daniel Craig's James Bond. But this was great. And all the other action scenes were pretty fun. And I forgot to mention earlier that the death of Spalko in this movie was pretty satisfying, considering the fact that it keeps a tradition with the bad guy getting killed at the power of the treasure they sought. Speaking of treasure, the skull and its powers are really cool. Yes, the magnet thing had everyone pissed off, but I like how if you stare into the eyes, it'll hypnotize you and put you into a trance. It was also cool seeing the influence it had over people, its telekinetic abilities and power of knowledge. And let's be honest, it was original seeing the race against the villains, how it was returning the skull to its place of origin, not trying to get to the treasure first, which added a whole new level of fun to the quest. Lastly, I love the closure it gives to the franchise. Indy gets married to Marion and has a family, becomes the associate dean of the college, and he stops Shia LaBeouf from becoming the future of the franchise. And by the way, I forgot to mention John Hurt. I mean, he's a cinematic legend. There's nothing more to say. Well, my friends, that's it. Now I can say with confidence that this Indiana Jones movie, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, is my favorite Indiana Jones movie. That's my thought on it. If you disagree or feel like I missed something, feel free to comment below. And if you like this video, subscribe. And stay tuned for more Unpopular Opinion.